Deion Sanders' transfer portal method appears to have failed him and Shedeur Sanders, as we saw against Washington State.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. Today's episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. Also, we are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So make sure to tune in and check us out every single day. I'm Kevin Borba. I am here every day talking about the Colorado Buffaloes, and this episode's going to be an interesting one. We're going to do a deep dive into what is going wrong with Colorado, and I think let's just start with the Washington State game. It was pretty out of hand immediately. I think for a team that, like Colorado, who technically had a chance to make it to a bowl game still, for them to come out looking as flat as they did, I think that kind of summarizes how the season looks. There was a handful of players that they were missing. I think, Juwan Mitchell was missing again. Trevor Woods was missing from the game. They were missing a couple corners. Cormani McLean had to start. And then it was just an onslaught of guys that were just normally starters or normally key contributors that ended up not playing and obviously hurt them a ton. And I think that there's a lot to be said about what went wrong with this game and what went wrong with this team at the back end of the season. So I'm trying to find who else was out, and it was just that game was abysmal. It was over by halftime. It was obviously over after Shedeur Sanders went down with the injury, and I think the offensive line kind of played a major role in that. Demoy Kennedy was starting, but these were the guys who were out. Kavosi Smoke, Caleb Faria, the tight end, Trevor Woods, Juwan Mitchell, Brennan Gant, Amarion Cooper, Miles Slusher, Vito Tisdale, and Jace Feely. So not great. And let's just go over the game quickly, just because I think it was a major letdown. Obviously, Colorado hadn't had the best stretches coming into the game, but they still had a lot to play for. And that team didn't seem inspired at all. They didn't seem like they were playing for anything. And realistically, they win that game. Then they take on a Utah team who is the most injury-depleted team in the country, and maybe they scrape together a 6-win. Maybe that happens, and obviously we won't know. The only chance Colorado has for a bowl game now is if they win next week and then the Pac-12 decides to overturn, because this is something that I saw being reported, that the Pac-12 is considering letting 5 and 7 teams make the bowl games, and 5 and 7 teams can make it to a bowl game if there's not enough 500 teams, which I don't think there's going to be this year, and it's all based on invitation and academic standing, I believe. So Colorado has an off chance to still make a bowl game, but at this point, don't know if they'd want to test that anymore just because this team's struggling. So a little breakdown of the game. It was over quickly. Washington State scored on their first drive, and then Colorado fumbles, and which was returned for a touchdown. Obviously, Shedeur Sanders was strip sacked, and Shedeur Sanders was sacked, and they fumbled, and obviously they returned that for a touchdown. And obviously, Washington State goes up 14-0. Then Colorado comes back after Shedeur Sanders was hurt, and they put in Ryan Staub, the backup, that's a tough situation to be in if you're a freshman quarterback who's only had 2 passes all year. And then all of a sudden they're like, okay, we haven't played you at all. Get out there. And so punt, his first drive in, expected. Shedeur Sanders comes back in, throws a touchdown, breaks a record for most passing yards in a season for Colorado, which that was cool. Throws it to Travis Hunter. It was a great throw, great catch, one of those great opportunities, great plays between the two of them. And then the ensuing possessions go as follows. So Colorado's up 7-14. They score a touchdown. They get the ball back, and all of a sudden it is a punt, and Washington State returns it for a touchdown. So it's 21-7. And then, obviously, Colorado struggles again. Washington State gets the ball back, 28-7. They force another punt, touchdown Washington State again. And all of a sudden, at the end of the half, it is 42-7 going into halftime. And this Colorado, and Shedeur Sanders got hurt, by the way. He was sacked 4 times. By the time the second drive came around. So Shadur Sanders was sacked a total of 4 times, and Colorado now leads the country in sacks. They passed Old Dominion. Colorado gave up 5 this past weekend. They have like 54, I think it is. Old Dominion has 53, I believe the number is. So congrats to Colorado for leading the country in sacks. Shadur Sanders went down, and obviously he was hurting. I don't even know if he should have returned in general. I think I don't know if he should return for the Utah game. I'll talk about that later. But this Colorado team is defeated. They looked beat up. They looked terrible. Coach Prime was sick, and I think there was a lack of energy amongst the team. I know there's a big flu bug going around. Multiple programs have come out and said that, yeah, a lot of us are sick, but that's no excuse. Coach Prime said that wasn't an excuse either. It's just one of those things where Colorado's struggling, and I think that there's a lot of underlying issues with the program and the roster buildup, and we'll get to that in a second. I was surprised. I wasn't counting on Shadur Sanders getting injured. I don't know if, like, say he plays the whole game, does the game look a little different? Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't, because Washington State was kind of shredding that defense. Cormani McClain, I think that was probably a welcome to college football moment for him, if he didn't have one already. I think Washington State was seeking him out. I think they threw to his side of the ball majority of the game. They were running at him. They were throwing at him. It was not great by any means. I think they were kind of seeking him out and just doing their best to kind of find what was, I guess, their weak link. Because obviously when Travis Hunter's on the field, you don't want to throw it to him. And so they were seeking out Cormani McClain in a way that I hadn't really seen before happen. I think Omarion Cooper had been targeted before, but they were running everything his direction. And I'm trying to find his grade real quick from PFF. So week 12, he had 55 snaps total. And obviously did not go well by any means. I think that was kind of a learning moment for him, and a learning moment for I don't know if it's a learning moment for the team. That's kind of all they got out there. I can't fault them for going to Cormani. I think they needed to get him experience. Coach Prime acknowledged after the game that they were going after him, said they probably saw something on film and that it was a good effort by Cormani, but this is how he did in coverage. So Cormani McClain had the worst coverage grade of any player that covered or anyone that was in coverage this past game. He was targeted 11 times, gave up 8 catches for 206 yards. He gave up 137 yards after the catch, and so was not great by any means. I think that was a tough showing there. This team just looked defeated, and I think there's a lot to say about the overall vibes coming into the game. I think they felt like they needed to win, but I don't think they performed like they needed to win. And so that was interesting as well. I'm going to talk about the transfer portal issues, and I think it's going to carry over to next season as well, unless something dramatic changes. But first, let me tell you about Listening.com. Listening.com is an app that turns academic papers, textbooks, PDFs, websites, and emails into audio so you can listen to them on the go. Instead of sitting at a desk to read, our app frees you up so you can learn from anywhere. We're the best app in the world for listening to academic material. We can read math equations, automatically skip citations and footnotes, and can pronounce difficult technical words. Other key features include one-click note taking. So click the note button while listening, and we put that sentence you're listening to in a notepad. Automatic chapter detection. Many students want to jump straight to the results or discussions of a paper. We automatically detect where the chapters are so you can jump around. Data tables. We also pull out data tables so you can review them visually inside the app. Our users are 50% PhDs, 30% college students, and 20% working professionals. So please feel free to check this out and go check out Listening.com. They offer everything you need for school, professional work, whatever it may be. So normally you just get up to a 2 free week trial, but when you sign up through the link, they'll get an extra free week trial. So their first 3 weeks are completely free. College students, listen up. There's an incredible app called Listening.com, which can take any academic paper, PDF, or class material and turn it into an audiobook. Best of all, if you use the Listening.com/link, if you use the link Listening.com/lockedon, you'll be able to get your free first 3 weeks for free. So go ahead and give it a try. Usually it's 2 weeks, but again, you get it for free. So go to Listening.com/lockedon to give it a try. Welcome back. We are talking about the transfer portal experiment. Did it work? Did it fail? Yes, people are saying Cormani McClain is a true freshman. Yeah, it's true. Like I said, it's a tough test for him to go out there and go against a Washington State team, who, mind you, was a ranked team at one point. They did lose 6 straight, and they were a struggling team, but they were a ranked team. They have good receivers and a good quarterback. So tough battle to kind of go out there and be like, have at it, kid. But from the transfer portal standpoint, I think, and this is a sign of things to come for Colorado, I think Coach Prime put too much weight in the portal for the trenches. The trenches, I think he got great players in the secondary. Obviously, Travis Hunter. I think there's some promising safeties out there. And then I think he got great players at receiver, Xavier Weaver, Jimmy Horn. Phenomenal gets. And I think he'll be able to do it again this next season. The trenches, though, no. The trenches and the linebackers, absolutely not. And so I think that this portal method is too much risk to the reward that it offers, because I did a whole episode breaking down the top 10 offensive linemen from last year's portal class. One of them was good, or one of them has done well this season. The other 9 are backups or simply don't play, or if they do play, they're not good. So Colorado seems like they're going to be testing out the portal method again. They just lost Talon Chandler, the 3-star offensive lineman, which people want to say it's a 3-star. People want to say this, but they only had 2 offensive line commits in their class, and they lost one of them. The other one is a junior college bounce back. So he does have college experience, but you look at the portal right now, and the top offensive lineman in the portal is Keyshawn Blackstone, the number 1 interior offensive line prospect, the number 3 overall player in the portal. He's from Covington, Georgia, was ranked as the number 1 junior college offensive line prospect, 6'5", 315. So he's got the size. Signed with Michigan State last December and played in 4 games as a backup before deciding to transfer. And then there's guys like his first name is slipping my mind. Hicks, the Oklahoma transfer, who again generating excitement. Marcus Hicks came into Oklahoma as a defensive lineman, flipped to the offensive line, and did not play. And then there's guys like the Coastal Carolina kid, who was a preseason all conference type of guy and didn't play this year. So there's not much to choose from. Obviously, once the season goes on, there's going to be more guys in the portal. But again, you're not going to go into the portal. Colorado needs a full revamp of the offense line. I think maybe you could keep one guy, maybe 1 or 2 at the most. So you need at the least 3 new offensive linemen, and you got to go to the portal and find 3 starting caliber offensive linemen. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to go to the portal, probably get backups from SEC schools and hope that these guys could play, or backups from Power 5 schools and hope that these guys could play, because there's just not like a left tackle from Alabama. He's not going to transfer just because. Like, that's not how it works. He's not transferring just because. I know the portal. I mean, the portal is kind of open right now. People are offering players and stuff like that. So the portal is a tool, and that's why I'm saying. Sorry, I was reading a comment. This isn't to say that they're not going to get more guys in the portal. There's going to be better quality players. But again, you're testing out the same method that you had last year, and it obviously didn't work. Your offensive line leads the country in sacks allowed. And Coach Prime, while I don't think he was wrong by any means, he literally said that he was going to replace these guys. So if you're an offensive lineman who's looking for an opportunity to start, and you know that if you come to Colorado, the coach will publicly say, I want to replace them, is that something that assures you? Probably not. And then looking at the portal as a whole from Colorado's class, I think there were some bright moments, and I think there were some bright additions. And I think there were some guys that just simply didn't pan out. And so, like, I'm just going to go through the list. Jawan Mitchell, he had good moments, but he was, I don't want to say suspended, but he was away from the team multiple times. I think he had bright moments when he was there. I would count that as a half success. Javon Antonio, the big-bodied receiver, has 17 catches for 209 yards. Don't think he was used as much as we thought he would be. I would say that was a decent ad, not really a game-changing ad for anyone. Then, just going down the list, Arden Walker, another defensive line guy from transfer from Missouri. Don't think he really had a huge impact. He had a total of 10 total tackles, 1 sack. So for a team that struggles in the trenches, they were really hoping to get production out of these guys that were coming from SEC schools. Travis J from Florida State, banged up pretty much all year, didn't really play. J.J. Hawkins from Ole Miss, don't think he registered many. he registered 5 total tackles. Yeah, I was going to say, don't think I've heard his name a lot. Bishop Thomas, I think they like him a lot. I think he has shown promise, 6 total tackles. I think his best impact is when they use him in the run package. Omarion Cooper is a starting corner. He lost his spot at Florida State, and I think he had shown a lot of promise at Florida State, came to Colorado. He starts opposite of Travis Hunter. I think he's done well. I think there's room for improvement. But again, I would say this isn't like his first time being the guy on a team. Alton McCaskill, we didn't see much from him. Don't really think he was healthy, and I think he was kind of rushed back in a sense. Amari McNeil, pretty good production on him, 29 total tackles. That's not bad. David Connor, the offensive tackle from Florida, I believe he left. Don't think he's played. Savell Smalls, they got really nothing out of the former 5-star. 2 total tackles. Jalen Ellis, the wide receiver from Baylor, didn't really get much from him. Don't think he had a catch this year. No. He didn't have a catch, but he did have 2 tackles on special teams. Reggie Young, the offensive lineman. I would say the whole offensive line class did not pan out. Willie Gaines from Jackson State, I think he was kind of hoping to have an impact that he had at Jackson State with Shadur. He had 2 catches. Chaz Wallace, let's see. Chaz, 6 total tackles, 1.5 sacks. I think he had a sack this past game, which that was a big play. Brennan Gant I don't think he's played at all this year. If he has, he hasn't had the impact at all. He had 3 total tackles, so he made some appearances, but they were hoping for him to be like a linebacker safety hybrid, like an Isaiah Simmons vibe. Didn't get that. Savion Wilkerson, running back. None of the running backs worked out because the offensive line was so poor that they really weren't able to run the ball. So Savion Wilkerson, while I think he had bright moments, I think he is a good back. I don't think this was a good running back environment. Kari Mans, 8 total tackles. And then Devion Harris from Old Dominion, another Old Dominion guy. He had 13 tackles as a linebacker. Not bad. I don't think the linebacker group, like I said, wasn't the best. Vito Tisdale, another guy who I was expecting a big performance from this year, hasn't played. He has no registered stats according to ESPN. Tavares Dawson, I like what he offers. Great speed, kind of fell out of the rotation. I think he could be a good player. Roderick Ward, solid safety. Jack Bailey, the offense line, no. None of the offensive line worked. Derek McClendon, 13 total tackles, 1.5 sacks. I think they were hoping he'd be like him and Jordan Dominic would form a dynamic duo of rushing the passer. DeMar Kennedy, another guy from a big program that didn't really play a lot. 5 tackles, injured a lot of the season. Kendrick Breedlove started at some point, saw a lot of time, but he was targeted a lot. He had 12 total tackles, no interceptions. I think the secondary struggled. They had Taylor Upshaw in their class, and they lost him. And I think he would have been a huge addition because he obviously, I think he leads the Pac-12 in sacks. So tough loss there. Jordan Dominic, great addition. I think he's leading the team in sacks right now, and I kind of expected that. I just don't think their defense line as a whole generates the pressure that they wanted or needed. Excuse me. Xavier Weaver, star. Great receiver. I think he's going to do wonders in the NFL. I think that they got everything that they expected from him and more. Leonard Payne from Fresno State had 3 sacks. Solid production out of your defense tackle. Again, not the best. Tyler Brown didn't play. Landon Beebe from Missouri State, didn't really play that often, and I don't think any of the offensive line planned out. Mark Vassett, maybe the best transfer of them all, the punter, did really well. Jeremiah Brown, Cameron Summer-Craig, Jackson State transfer from at the safety position. Cameron's a good player. I think he's kind of a catalyst for this defense. He's had good moments, but again, you kind of got to take a look at the whole picture. So Travis Hunter, obviously great. Shiloh Sanders did really well. Shadur, great. Taj Austin had some moments. Seydou Traore didn't end up having him. Yusef Mergabil, the Florida transfer, lost him. Jace Feely, kicker, solid. He ended up losing his role to Alejandro Mata. Vontae Bentley lost his role, but came back and did pretty well. Miles Slusher didn't really have the impact that I was expecting. Savion Washington, offensive line struggles. Kavosi Smoke, running back from Kentucky, thought he'd be a lot better. Has 2 carries for -2 yards on the season. He tweeted that they could have been undefeated if the team wasn't so selfish. So obviously he wasn't a fan of his time in Colorado. Jimmy Horn Jr., really good receiver. And then Shane Cokes, defense lineman, did pretty well. So I went through all 51 of the transfers. They obviously didn't keep all of them. And there was a lot of guys that didn't pan out. And I think that's the risk you run when you tell an entire roster to leave and try to bring in guys who are backups or played at smaller schools. And I think he's going to end up trying to do that again. So we'll see how that works out. But I don't think the portal method is a complete failure. But I don't think the first year it ever hardly does for any college. That's a fair point. The transfer portal method is a tough method to use. And I think it's more so of a method of like, okay, we have really good receivers and we need a running back, or we need one more corner. We need like a nickel corner guy. Who's going to be that guy for us? Not like we need 30 guys to be contributors and starters, because that obviously did not work out for Colorado. So I don't know what the portal plan is. I don't know what the recruiting plan is, because they have 9 commitments currently, and they obviously early signing days coming up, and I don't know how many guys are going to be able to flip. I'm expecting them to flip some because it's Coach Prime. But I would say the portal construction, didn't really like it. Obviously, he had success this year. He was only projected to get 1 or 3 wins. They have 4 wins with a chance to get 5. And I think there was positive signs, but I think the portal method was way overblown. I think he should adjust his strategy, because obviously if you want to win at the highest level, you have to recruit at the highest level. Championship teams have a roster made up of 51%, I think the number is, of 4-star, 5-star players. He needs to put more emphasis into recruiting. Otherwise, the transfer portal will kind of lead them to a middle of the pack team. And I don't know how far a team made up of the transfer portal, even in year 2 or year 3, will work out. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at FanDuel. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action than right now. The app is super easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options that include spread, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel is the official partner of our good friends over at the NFL. Thank you for that, Eric. I was unmuted. So what I was saying, I think we have a lot of issues to address with this Colorado team. I think, like I talked about while I was muted, James Simpson said the best part is that they're going in the right direction, and that's what matters. And I totally agree. They were projected 3.5 wins or 3 wins. They got 4. Shout out, Eric. I would have rambled on for about 5 minutes without realizing. So good on you. They had 3 wins, or they were projected to get 3 wins, around 4, and they were supposed to fail. They were supposed to be a miserable team that went 1-11 again, or whatever it may be. And so success is 4-8, or success being 4-8 compared to 1-11 is huge. But we need to see a jump from year 1 to year 2, because if they go 5-7 next year, is that a success? Is that a kind of a, the growth we wanted to see? I would say no. Everybody, including Coach Prime, said that they wanted to succeed right away. Excuse me. And I think they did succeed right away for the term, or the roster that they had. But moving forward, you have to grow. You have to get 6 wins next year. You have to make a bowl game next year. And I don't know how that happens. In the immediate future, I think they have a lot of recruiting to focus on. There's a lot of guys they could flip. I'm not saying they're going to flip a class full of 20 people and bring in a top 10 class, but there's not a doubt in my mind that he could flip 10 commits from other programs and maybe get a top 35 class. I don't know if they get in the top 25 right now. They're 70th in the country. And then next week at Utah, They have at Utah next week, right? Yeah. Utah is a struggling team. They are hurt, they are beat up, and they're still a physical team. It is really a game of for Utah trying to better their record, and for Colorado, just trying to make it out of the season, I would say. I don't think Shedeur Sanders should play. I wouldn't be surprised if he does, because obviously he's a fighter. He's a dog. He's got that dog in him. He came back twice, and I think both times he probably shouldn't have come back because I think he was pretty beat up. But he shows he cares about this team, and I think that's something that not a lot of people realize about Shedeur is the fact that he cares and he's more of a team player than they want to give him credit. Everyone wants to talk about this, and they want to talk about the commercials and all that. But what quarterback like Caleb Williams, USC is going to make a bowl game. The odds are that Caleb Williams is not going to play in the bowl game for USC. Even if he does, I think a lot of people could say that Caleb Williams quit on his team. I think a lot of players are going to quit on their team come bowl season, whereas Shedeur Sanders, if it were up to him, I think he would play in a meaningless game to end the season. Because he gains nothing. He broke the single season passing yard record. If he cared about individual accomplishments, he already did all he needed to. And I don't think any of this was about individual accomplishments. I think it's just he wants to be out there. He wants to play football. And so I admire that of him. But from Colorado moving forward, they need to recruit better. They need to evaluate better. And they need to find a good offensive coordinator and good offensive line coach, because they obviously are probably going to lose Sean Lewis and O'Boyle. So they have a lot of work cut out for them. This month of December coming up is going to be a massive month for Colorado. Could be a program changing month for them. It could change the trajectory of the program. And I think there's a lot to be said about the progress that they made this year. And I think there's also a lot to be said about how quickly things fell apart after that Stanford game. It's going to be a true test of Coach Prime. Someone said, I wanted to read that comment. Where'd it go? Deion's bags will be packed after Utah. He won't rein in the bad attitude and turn it around. I think so. Here's the problem, though, because I think a lot of people are saying, "Oh, just get rid of the bad apples," because I think they have a culture problem. I do. That's what happens when you bring in 50, 60 new guys. Well, technically like 80 guys, kind of in the recruiting class, who are all new, who are all coming from different areas, different backgrounds, different programs, and different mindsets. You have to balance all of this. They are a first-year coaching staff, and they have to learn how to balance all of this. And they obviously have a culture problem. And you can't just get rid of all these guys. You can't be like, hey, you weren't good, transfer. Because these guys they have everything to lose. If these guys transfer a second time and they didn't graduate, they're not going to be eligible. So then they lose a year of football. And I can tell you right now, that's not going to happen. So the roster transfer portal thing is really interesting because Coach Prime can't just go to everybody and be like, you're out. You can't do that. Like they have to, these kids are not going to transfer just because he wants them to. He could maybe say some things like, you're not going to play here again, or we don't think your role is here. But again, these guys, if they transfer a second time. So it's going to be really interesting. I think that this Colorado program has a huge month ahead of them. And I appreciate all you guys for tuning in to Locked On Buffs. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. It's your team every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. I will see you guys tomorrow.